All right. Drummer Harvey Mason, the chameleon himself, is here to talk about his incredible career with Fourplay, Herbie Hancock's Headhunters, George Benson, Grover Washington Jr., and so much more. I'm Brian Zimmerman, and this is the Jazziz Last Call. All right. And as always, before we begin today's episode, I just want to let you know about an ECM album that I think is really great. And I think that you will enjoy too. This one is by accordionist Jean-Louis Martinier and guitarist Kevin Siddiqui. It's a great duo album. It's got that kind of left bank, rive gauche chanson kind of vibe. If you want to be out on the patio drinking a glass of red wine, this is definitely the album that you want to play along with it. So yeah, you can learn more about this record and so many more at ecmrecords.com. Also wanted to let you know about our current issue. This would be the summer 2020 issue. It is out right now on newsstands and in subscribers' mailboxes already, hopefully on your coffee tables already. But this one is all about fusion, a great cover story on Chick Corea in here. And yeah, all of the content from this print issue is available on our website as web articles. Now, you will need a digital subscription to read those stories. But fortunately, we are offering a special subscription rate for Jazz's Last Call viewers for just 99 cents per month for 3 months. You can unlock unlimited digital access to all of the articles in this issue and all of our previous print issues. Plus, we'll enroll you to receive a complimentary print issue come fall, our next issue, the fall 2020 issue, which is due out in September and which is all about the art of the album. Listening to albums, collecting albums, producing albums, album cover art. It's a really cool issue. And like I said, you enroll now, you unlock all the content from this issue and our past issues, plus you receive a complimentary print issue come fall. All right. My guest today, as I mentioned, is the great Harvey Mason, one of the most in-demand drummers of all time, a multi-Grammy nominated session drummer, producer, composer, and recording artist. He has worked with a pantheon of musical giants, including James Brown, Herbie Hancock, Beyonce, Frank Sinatra, Ray Charles, Carlos Santana, Michael Jackson, Grover Washington Jr., and George Benson. And he was a founding member of the contemporary jazz group Fourplay. He has been the first call drummer for the Academy Award ceremonies on 25 occasions. That's pretty cool. And he's here. He's ready to go one more round. So let's welcome Harvey Mason to the Last Call. Harvey.
Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Good, good. How you doing?
It's great to be here. You kidding?
It's good to be chatting with you too, man. You are a
Absolutely.
legend, and very happy to have you here on the Last Call. I know the world seems totally upside down right now, but it's an absolute pleasure to be talking to you. One of the first things we do on the Jazz's Last Call is we do a toast to some person, some place, some idea, something. So Harvey, you've got your coffee there. Who are we toasting to? What are we toasting to? When or why are we toasting? Who are we celebrating with this glass?
We're celebrating peace to the world and Black Lives Matter.
Amen to that. Cheers. Well, thanks, Harvey. Hey, you are talking to us from California. Oh, yeah. You have been locked down more than anybody else. What does the great Harvey Mason listen to in lockdown? What have you been really getting into, in terms of music these days?
Well, I've been really, really happy. I mean, the lockdown is a drag in some respects, but for me, it's been a joy because I've had the opportunity to just stay here and I practice, I write, composing it, and I record, and I check out videos of different musicians and listen to different tutorials and everything. So okay. I'm listening to everything. And I listen to a lot of classical music. I listen to anything. I have two sons that are in the business, and one of them's an A&R at Quincy Jones's company. He keeps me abreast of everything fresh that's coming along the pike. So I listen to everything that's new.
Okay.
And right now I'm listening to a group called Moonchild.
Okay. I know Moonchild. I know Moonchild. Yeah, that's a great group.
Yeah,
okay.
Very, 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 very great music. I'm actually working on a new project right now. So
okay.
I've been trying to lay a little low as far as listening too much to a lot because I don't want to influence it, but I have a lot of ideas and it's been every day here just working on a new project.
Oh, that's cool. So when you have a new project in mind, you don't really like to listen to too much outside stuff because you're really focused on the originality of that vision, of that voice.
Right. It's always been afraid of just copying something that you don't really want to do, you know?
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
guys call me up and say, does this sound like anything to you? They used to call me up to do that all the time because I was so aware of what was going on. But that's always a danger, you know? So I listen not intently, but just music maybe just going all the time.
I
But
hear
music,
you. These days, yeah, it's weird with these lawsuits now, you know, songs that are apparently copying another song. And, you know, it gets to the point where it's almost ridiculous because there are certain sounds that make a genre and you're not really copying them to, you know, make a song. It's just borrowing from what's happened in the past. So it's kind of an interesting phenomena to have kept an eye on recently. But hey, man, Harvey, if you look, and I had to look, you know, through your discography, I was doing my research for this interview. In the 1970s, you were everywhere, man. You were playing with everybody. My only conclusion is that you must have a clone because you were on so many groups. And we will get to that in a minute, but I want to start at the very beginning. You grew up in New Jersey, right? You're a Jersey guy.
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Playground of the world.
That's right, man. That's right. Such a great scene across the bridge there in Philly, too. An amazing jazz scene. And I'm wondering, you know, what was the group that got you from being a guy on the Atlantic City, New Jersey scene to the national stage? You know, what was your big break?
Well, my big break, it wasn't by accident. It wasn't one break, but I discovered in my senior year of high school, after already applying to college, that there was a business called studio work. Yeah. And I saw pictures of guys in studios with shirts and ties on, and I read their article. And they were independent. They didn't have to go on the road. They just, you know, and I said, that's what I want to do. So I immediately applied to 2 music schools, one in Philly and Berkeley and Boston, and was accepted to both. And then I decided I'd go to Berkeley. And that had a big influence in my career because I went there and I spent 4 years in Boston, eventually graduating from the New England Conservatory. And then immediately ran out to LA, and just started just being out there, you know, just playing. I was playing in clubs and meeting people and saying that I could do this. And I was a percussionist first, drummer and percussionist, and people accepted me as a percussionist right away. I think, to tell you the truth, one of the guys that was the music director for the Lucille Ball show heard me playing with George Shearing.
Okay.
And he asked me where did I come from. He knew about my history, and he knew I was a percussionist. So he called me for the Lucille Ball show, and that's how I ended up getting started.
Oh, very nice. No, that's interesting that you wanted to go the studio route because, you know, again, those guys, they're not getting their names, you know, top billing there, but they're some of the most important musicians, you know, in music because they are creating the sounds of so many iconic albums, even though they may not be getting the credit or the glory. So, but you knew you wanted to be in the studio.
I knew I wanted to be in the studio. I didn't really care about the glory. You know, I just wanted to be a respected person and have a respected income and have a cool life. You know, I didn't care about traveling the road because, see, I started playing in clubs when I was 14, and I saw how the musicians were coming through there and how it was stressed and they were away and money wasn't really that great. And they you know, the habits were just kind of all over the place. And it just wasn't appealing to me from that standpoint. Musically, it was appealing to me.
Right.
So when I saw the opportunity of playing in the studios, I said, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I geared all my playing from then on to concentrating on being versatile, which I had already been doing because in Atlantic City, in order to make a living, I had to play strip clubs, I had to play R&B clubs, I had to play surf music, I had to play bar mitzvahs, I had to play everything. Yeah. And I was playing jazz, and I played one of the best jazz clubs in the city, so I was playing everything.
That's right.
It was natural for me. And then coming up, I was started playing percussion and drums in the 3rd grade, actually. I was 7, and there's a little school orchestra, so I'm playing snare drum and that for all those years until I started drum set when I was 13 and a half.
Oh, so, very nice. And what were you listening to? What was kind of like the soundtrack of your childhood, your youth coming up?
Well, I think gospel music was prevalent because I was in church, and I had piano lessons, so I played piano in church. But I was listening to that. I was listening to, of course, the classical music because of what I was playing, and then I was listening to whatever was on the radio. You know, we didn't have a television for a long time, so the radio was playing all the time. So whatever was on the radio is what I was hearing. But then my mother had 78 records, stacks of these old 78, these
Nice.
hard ones. I don't think you'll
Yeah.
remember them. You're too
I'm a
young.
little too young, but I know those shellac discs, like 5,
Those
6 minutes of music. Yeah.
Yes. So a lot of those, we did have a record player. So I used to put these things on and I listened to jazz at the Philharmonic and,
Nice.
and all the old records, Cozy Cole, Topsy, and just the old records and the singers, the Nat King Cole. So I was listening to all this stuff all the time. It was kind of fun. So I had just a smorgasbord of music, just, you know, listen to everything.
And it's so important to come up that way. A lot of people forget John Coltrane started playing in R&B bands, you know, in Philly. That's where you got to get your start. You got to play a little bit of everything. You in the early 70s would go on to record on, as I talk to a lot of contemporary jazz artists on this show, they point to, especially saxophonists, they point to one album as kind of like the spark that ignited the fire for them. That would be Grover Washington Jr.'s Mr. Magic. And you played on it, man, in the 1970s. So I'm curious because so many of our listeners love that album as well. Not only the musicians that come on the show, but our listeners too. 2 questions. You know, number 1, what was it like to work with Grover in the studio? And number 2, did you have any idea that, you know, Grover was onto something here with this own kind of fusion of like jazz with R&B and soul and some of the other musics on the pop spectrum? I know that's a 2-parter, so yeah, we can start with what was Grover like in the studio?
Well, first of all, let's say that genre where he was playing, which was sort of what soul pop, or rather soul jazz, had already been started with the records that I was doing with Donald Byrd and all the Blue Note crossover records.
Yes.
And that with Chameleon and everything that was the reason why they called me to New York to play on that record. So when I went to New York, to tell you the truth, all the guys in the studio iced me because they weren't too happy about bringing this hotshot, supposedly guy from LA to make a record. His drums show up, you know, they're all set up and everything. And so the guys didn't say anything to me. You know, I mean, like Richard T. and Eric Gale, Gary King.
Yeah. These were established New York cats that were, you know, very prominent in the scene. Yeah.
And Ralph McDonald, of course, and Bob James. The only one that spoke to me was Bob James.
And we'll get to that friendship later. Yeah.
Yeah. So he ended up knowing that I played golf. We started talking. So we became friends. But the other guys were listening and trying to see what was going on. But in the studio, I didn't have much of a connection with Grover. He was in his area and or whatever. And we just laid the tracks down and to tell you the truth, I don't even think Grover was that the date or was he? Yes, he had the date. But but the music was incredible. We had a great time, and by the end of the sessions, before, Richard T. said to me, "Yo, Stuffy," and that was the key that I was in.
You got a nickname.
When he called you Stuffy, that means you were in.
All right, man.
All of a sudden, the guys accepted me, but the music was great, and the key was no one said to me, "Play this, play that, play this, play that." No one.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
You know, and they left to your own devices. I was left to my own devices, and I just played what I heard, you know, and tried to be appropriate with the music. But that's what turned out. It's happened during those times. During those days, I was on a lot of big records, and most people just let me play what I would hear, you know.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But that was a session where you met Bob James, was on Mr. Magic?
That's the first session I met. That's my first session for CTI, yeah.
Wow. And bonded over golf, huh? That's what did it.
We bonded over music and golf. And we had a lifelong relationship from then on, you know. He started calling me to do all of his stuff.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. How's your handicap, Harvey?
It's not really good. I don't get to play very much. I haven't played for months, especially since the quarantine, you know. My friends, guys are calling me now to go out. They started playing about a month ago, but I've just been into working on this music, and I'm just addicted now. And I get up in the morning, I do my Peloton, you know, and then I come down to the studio and just start working, you know. And
playing
I'm just kind of into it now. But I committed to playing next Thursday, so we'll see what happens.
All right, yeah, shake off the rust for sure. You mentioned another big album, which was you know, Headhunters. You know, Herbie Hancock's seminal album. The story behind that album is, you know, he was coming off of the Mwandishi stuff, you know, which was very heavy fusion, you know, kind of abstract stuff. And with Headhunters, he wanted to kind of take things back down to earth and really just lay into the groove. Was that kind of the message that he expressed to you, or were you just kind of creating this in real time?
Well, Well, we're creating in real time, but I think at the time he really wanted to make a record that was more accessible to more people.
Right.
And that's how I put it. Because their music was so great. And I used to follow that band around. I loved those guys, all of them. And there was a great band. Their writing was great. But I think at the time it was really a financial drain, and they were, you know, it was tough. So he wanted to make a record, I think, that reached more people, and that was the goal. And I had been on a lot of records that were crossover records at the time, and Billy Hart recommended me, and Herbie immediately said, "That's it, you're in, please." You know, so nice. That was the goal. We make it, but we didn't compromise our plan. We started playing. The music was still, you know, we were playing, you know, so it was fun. And Herbie, again, he didn't say play this, play that, play this, and it was a wonderful experience. And that project probably had more effect on my career than anything, you know, especially from a jazz perspective.
Just in terms of where you were able to go from there, the doors that opened, and
well, the people that knew me, you know, in the jazz area. Even though I've been making records with Carole King and Streisand and all these other people, it was in that area where I was just, you know, a studio musician, and I loved it. And I loved being a studio musician. I didn't care about notoriety. I didn't care about making records or anything. I just loved making music, all kinds of music, any kind of music.
Right.
And from the records, I ended up had an invitation from Clive Davis. Actually, I was working on the Brecker Brothers record in New York. And I just read Clive's book, believe it or not. And then he came to the studio and he asked me, "Well, do you have any songs?" And of course I had songs, sure. I sent him a cassette. And he says, "I want to sign you." And I said, "Wow, really? Really?" I hadn't thought about being an artist. I honestly had.
You were on the studio track. Yeah.
I always wrote, but I was always writing. I always had music ready, but I was in the studio. I loved the studio. I was living my dream. I mean, I didn't even go on the road with Herbie Hancock after that record.
You didn't?
Nope. I never went on the road. I finished the record. I went right back to the studios. I took off to do the record with Herbie. I almost lived with the band during that time. We rehearsed, and then we did 2 live gigs, did the record, and I drove myself right back to LA. And I kept the LA scene alive while I was doing the record. I'm not quite sure how long it took again, and I came right back, and then Herbie said, "Come on, we got to go on the road." No, I'm sorry, man.
Back to work. Wow. But in those sessions, you co-wrote something. You co-wrote Chameleon, right?
Yeah, co-wrote Chameleon, and I did an arrangement of Watermelon Man, and I wrote another song called Shiftless Shuffle.
That's right. So was it you that came up with that immortal bass line?
Oh, no, of course. I wish I could take credit for that. That's Paul Jackson Jr. Paul Jackson was an amazing bassist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that has been played by a million high school jazz bands around the planet. Must bring a smile to your face when you hear it, you know, young kids. It's like, as a matter of fact, my dad is a musician. He's a band. I'm a trumpet player too. A lot of my friends are. So at my wedding, we had a jam session, and that was the tune we called Chameleon. So you were there in a way, man. Yeah.
All right, Ryan. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Very cool. Very cool. It was, you know, it's so funny. Headhunters was for a time the best-selling jazz album, you know, for that period, until Breezin' by George Benson came along.
Right.
And you were on that album as well.
Yeah.
Now, was George on your radar just from, you know, kind of the Pennsylvania scene, or the stuff he was doing with Dr. Lonnie Smith and Lou Donaldson? And because people forget, he was an amazing straight ahead player. I mean, really could have gone the way of, you know, any into the Wes Montgomery, you know, Grant Green. Like, he was a straight ahead player for sure. Did you know him in that vein?
I did. I met him when I was about 15 or 16. Came to Atlantic City with Jack McDuff, and he borrowed a shirt for me. I remember, and because I lived 2 blocks from the club, so and I met him then, and we became friends. And when I went to college, he'd come through Boston, and they'd invite me to the club, and we'd go hang out. So I knew George a long time. And after I started recording, we ended up doing a tour. We toured together with the CTI All-Stars. It was an amazing tour. And even during that time, George was playing with his organ quartet or trio, and he was saying, "I'm going to be a star," because he could sing. And all of a sudden, I mean, he started singing. And so then I got called by Tommy Lee play a record with him, and the record was a smash, you know. So there was George. He was a singing sensation. But he never changed his playing. His playing is still straight ahead. His playing is amazing. Can fit in anything. So he's still one of the best jazz guitarists to ever play.
100%. I think people overlook his guitar playing, because he's a phenomenal singer, because he's done some popular stuff. But the technique, is impeccable. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
So who else was in that CTI All Stars group with you?
Let's see: Johnny Hammond Smith, Freddie Hubbard,
All right.
Hubert Laws, Joe Farrell, Bob James, Ron Carter, Ayrton. Who else am I leaving out? Grant Green.
Yeah.
Who else? I'm not leaving someone else out, but Hank Crawford. And that's all I can remember at this time. But that was a great. We had a bus, and we traveled around the bus. It was so much fun. This in the summer. And it was cool.
I bet, man. And so your debut as a leader was on CTI?
My debut as a leader was on Arista, Clive Davis.
Arista. Okay, right, with Clive Davis. Okay. Yeah. And what was that like, the transition from being the consummate studio drummer to now this is recording under your own name?
Well, the production and writing and all that was very natural for me. Being a leader and going on the road, I didn't go. I went on one tour, I think, one short tour.
Okay.
They wanted me to go on tour, but I didn't nurture being a leader in that way, So I was still shy about going out and being on the road. I just loved what I was doing. I was living my dream, and I made the records, and the records did pretty daggone good. But I didn't really tour. I just wanted to do what I did.
That's never been your thing. That's never been your thing.
It wasn't until Fourplay. But before that, I didn't go. I went out with Carole King on a world tour, and that's with private jets all over the world. So I did that one. But other than that,
it's pretty nice.
I didn't go out.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, we will get to Fourplay in a minute, Harvey. I just want to take 1 second here to thank another sponsor. That would be Bluesound, an award-winning wireless high-res sound system that lets you play music in any and every room throughout your home. Choose music from your favorite streaming service or from a music library connected to your home network. Control where, at what volume, and when the music plays with a free BlueOS app for your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer. And that's it. Getting the kind of crisp and detailed sound that only an audiophile-grade system can deliver has never been easier. It is the best thing to listen to Harvey Mason on. You can learn more about them on our website, jazziz.com, where we have put together a Bluesound buyer's guide, or at bluesound.com. All right. So Fourplay, Harvey, we mentioned you met Bob James at this Mr. Magic recording session. Something clicked musically, personally, something clicked. The story, as I know it, was you kind of reconvened for the, what was it, Grand Piano Canyon album?
Grand Piano record, yes.
Okay. And that's what brought everybody in, right?
Yes, Bob wanted to record. I'd done other records, but they wanted to record in Los Angeles.
Right.
And he actually asked me to put together a band for him, so I put together 2 bands for him.
Okay.
And he liked the band with Lee and Nate, and so we did the record. While recording, the synergy was so great.
Yeah.
Bob said, he was working at Warner's at the time. He said, guys, would any of you guys ever consider being in a band? And to his surprise, everybody said yes. So he went back to Mo Austin and told Mo Austin. A few days later, they offered us a deal. And we start recording, and Mo Austin shows up at the studio, and the first record is platinum. Boom, there you go.
Yeah, that always helps. That always helps. So, can you divulge who was in the other band you put together too? Okay. That's fair enough. Fair enough. But I'm sure whoever they are, they're doing great things too.
They're great musicians,
yeah. And so this was the group that you were comfortable touring with for the first time.
Oh yeah. Well, it's amazing how things happen, because as it goes, studio work was just starting to wane because electronic music was coming more in vogue and more drumming. And even though I was in the programming, I was doing the entire thing, but the scene was just changing a little. There's a transition going on, and not as much live playing was going on. More stuff was being sequenced in, so it was slowing down. I could see the end of the glory days, which I came in doing the just golden years of recording. I mean, it's so great, doing 3 sessions every day and not having enough time to do all the stuff you're doing. So everything's just winding down, and then I did this record that turned out to be a smash, and had the opportunity to go on tour and make good money doing it as well, with some great guys and great musicians. And so how could you not transfer? So I transferred to that. I still kept my foot in the studios as much as I could. I was bouncing back and forth, but that sort of took over as things sort of changed.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the rise of programming, because I mean, you played on Miles Davis's, I think, second to last record. Dingo, and he had that famous quote about drum machines was, I can get a drum machine to play on time every time. You know, I can control the dynamics. What's it like now? I mean, is it you know, pretty much overrun by drum machines and electronics, or?
You know what? It's actually coming back. It's more important to have drummers now. There's drum machines happening, but there's also live drumming. Now my setup, I can record right here, and people will send me tracks and ask me to record on it. So I'll record right here, and it sounds great. It's happening more and more and more. And my son's like a big time producer, so while he uses drum machine, he has me play on a lot of stuff as well. So there's still live drumming, and you're not. I don't think guys are making the living that you could make back in the day because you're recording all the time. So most of the drummers, they're on the road and they record as well. So they're bouncing back and forth between both things.
Right.
So that's how it is now. To tell you the truth, I love recording. I would do that and only do that even to the day. You know, whenever I have a big session, I go and I see all the guys. We all kind of look and say, where did it go? But we just love it. And like you say, the musicians are incredible musicians. You know, the studio musicians can read and play and interpret it.
Yes. And
it's totally professional. Going to be there early, no running at the last minute, 15 minutes late. Everybody's straight. It's so good to be a part of that fraternity. They're amazing.
Absolutely. Musicians, you know, can sight read on a dime, you know, never flub, never crack. I've got nothing but respect for studio musicians. And, you know, it's so cool to hear you say that this kind of feels like your fraternity. You know, it reminds me of like star comedians who always say, I identify with the writers, the ones that are behind the scenes, that are making things funny, you know, and it's true. Those are the people who are really giving shape to the music we love. So Harvey, you know, in terms of Fourplay, it's been so cool to see how you evolved, you know, over time, with the addition of Chuck, and then Kirk. Did you feel like the group, you know, with the addition of each new member kind of took on a new sonic identity a little bit?
Well, we started with Lee, who was there for 6 years, and that was the initial sound of the band. And then Lee left, and we ended up with Larry Carlton, another amazingly individual stylist of a guitar player. So the band kind of morphed it a little bit into featuring him because everyone's listened. So we shifted a little here and there. And after Larry was in the band for 13 years, then Chuck came along. And that's when the band really changed because Chuck ended up being the great writer and producer that he is, brought some very challenging music to the band. Here we go. And it was fun. And we really enjoyed it. And the music was incredible. And he was a great guy. And he was a full-fledged band member right from the very beginning.
Good.
Right from the beginning. And I love Chuck and still think of him all the time. I have a picture of him up in my closet.
Oh, beautiful.
That's where I changed. But then he ended up getting sick and dying, and it was really pretty traumatic. And we didn't know what we were going to do. So we decided to take a hiatus for a while. And we did. We're still in hiatus, but we decided we want to get back together. And we checked with Lee, and Lee right now said, yes, I'm going to do it. Let's do it. So, but we've been interrupted by the COVID. We haven't been able to record because we already took dates in the end of October of next year. So
so might
record go up pretty soon.
Might there be a reunion in the works soon?
All right. Well, we have to record, but we have a date, and we have a big show in October next year. So we better get a record done at some point.
Cool. Yeah. And with Kirk, too, it's cool that you brought in Kirk Whalum as well, because, you know, as a saxophone voice, that kind of lent a unique kind of perspective to the group as well.
Well, to tell you the truth, we always had a sign that had no sax.
Why? Why no sax?
Fourplay, no sax, no sex.
Okay.
Play on words.
I got you.
And because every record, I mean, in the studio a couple times, we would all think of a saxophonist and put his name on the list. How many sax players were recording artists? And 98% of them sound the same. So it's like, oh, here we go. We're not going to have a saxophone. No, we're going to stick to what we have. Yeah. But when Chuck died, we couldn't think of a guitar player right away that we'd have to go through. And Chuck and Kirk was such a great musician, and we had history with him. Bob had history with him. I had history with him, and so we invited him to come along and tour and fill in for us for that period. And it was great having him because he was amazing. He fit in really well, and he was easy to get along with, and he was a great musician. So that was fun. But I think even though we thought, we're not sure we're going to stick with a saxophone player because we would fall into the vein of everyone else with the saxophone lead.
Right, right.
And we wanted to keep the guitar lead. So we just kind of sort of tacit, just kind of just mocked out time with Chuck, with Kirk. And now we're ready to kind of move forward again with the same sound. But it's great to have Lee coming back because we'll put a button on. That'll be almost 34 years now.
Wow. Yeah. No, what a reunion. That's going to be great. Looking forward to that. I guess sometime-ish next year is what we're looking at if an album were to come out, right?
Yes.
All right.
Definitely.
Very cool. Very cool. You are a legend in jazz and especially a fusion. And there's some very exciting stuff going on in your new hometown, Los Angeles. I mean, this is kind of the epicenter of the new fusion movement, if you could call it that, with people like Kamasi Washington and Terrace Martin, young kids really kind of pushing an envelope. Are you keeping an eye on that scene? Are you monitoring what's going on there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Kamasi worked with me for almost a year. And,
oh yeah. Before he started recording, but when
he had records, but he wasn't really as prominent then.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are a couple of videos online with him playing with me at Java Jazz in Europe and stuff like that. So I'm keeping an eye on that. And Terrace Martin did a session for my new record with all his crew. We came and we did a session.
That's
so
right.
He's producing one song on my new record, which is kind of fun.
Beautiful,
and,
man.
He's great. So, and Mono Neon, I don't know if you've heard of
bass player. Yeah, I love Mono Neon.
He played with. He did a tour with me. So I'm staying on top of Haley Niswanger is playing with me now.
Phenomenal saxophonist. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, she's in your group?
Yes, she's in my present group.
Yeah.
Along with Mark de Clive Lowe and Omar Dominic and Eric Dawkins. I have a singer who sings jazz and everything, Eric Dawkins. So
yeah.
It's a great band. There's a video, I think, of us online as well. But I can't wait to get back online get back on the road with that band,
I hear you. It's been great, the crossover appeal of artists. Like, you're seeing a younger generation. A person like Kamasi Washington will be playing Lollapalooza, major rock festivals. Mark de Clive Lowe has a huge following,
right.
Because he DJs and stuff like that. So why do you think today's young generation, why do you think they're finally ready to start? Okay, they're opening their ears toward jazz.
Well, they don't even know if it's jazz. They just love the excitement of the music. They're listening to the music. They're dancing. I'm playing with Mark, and we're blowing it out, and they're dancing, and it's crazy. But they love the music, and they're really excited. And so I mean, to play in that situation for me has just been fun.
Yeah.
And have those guys play with me, but to play Mark, I said, Mark, just call me. It's okay. So to get to play in that situation and see the crowd, the way they react, everything, I love it. So I hope to kind of keep that going, and increase my visibility with them too, because and it's really cool. They really have respect for me. It's a guy that's been around, So
that's exactly right, man. You were part of the foundation, for that music. That's great. That's great, man. Like you say, hopefully this will be behind us soon. We can get back to recording. We can get back to going to shows. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to feel like, but hopefully we'll get there soon. Harvey, if people in the meantime wanted to, stay up to date on what you've got going on, what's the best place for them to do that? Where can they follow along?
Well, I have HarveyMason.net, but I just had this incredible site done, and it's not going to be it for a couple of weeks because we're testing it all now. But you can go to info@harveymason.com, and that's how you're really going to be able to see what's happening. This new site I have is, you don't go through it in 5 minutes. It's going to be a 20-minute deal. Oh my God, all the great pictures and the great videos and some of the CDs and
right on.
in there, and information, and it's pretty special. I haven't seen anything like it.
Beautiful.
I found a guy that really understands and just fell in love and really embraced everything. He took him 6 months to build his site. And trust me,
awesome.
You can tell. So
awesome. Really, I mean, you could spend hours just wandering around your discography. Like I mentioned, 70s, 80s, 90s, you were on every important record. I don't know how you do it. Now that I think of it, I've never seen Harvey Mason and Superman in the same room. So,
oh boy, thank you. Thank you. Guys ask me, they say, well, what are your most proudest moments? And I want to mention it because going to New England Conservatory and studying with Vic Firth, one of the timpani masters of all time, I was prepared to play in an orchestra, and he said, "No, you do what you were going to do. You continue doing what you were going to do, studio work." And I'm glad I did because, and having studied that the first 3 years, I was pretty much a percussionist,
Yeah.
And
Percussion being, classical orchestra percussion or auxiliary percussion,
yes,
stuff like that.
orchestral percussion.
Yep.
And 3 years ago, I was invited to play for the second time with the London Symphony Orchestra. So I went to New York. Excuse me. I went to London and played with them. We played Holst Planets, all 7 movements of that movie, and I was the second timpanist on the orchestra.
Okay, so I bet that means you were at my wedding twice, Harvey, because my wife walked down to the aisle from the chorale from Jupiter. That's
wow!
That's such a beautiful melody. That's the song that my wife walked down the aisle to.
Yes.
Love Holst, love the planets. Wow, beautiful. And you're a Vic Firth player.
Yeah. Great. And I take pride in the fact that Vic said I was the hardest working student he ever had.
Wow.
And we became friends, and I've been endorsing his drumstick since the beginning. So I was really proud of that, and because actually I thought I would play at some orchestras then.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a chance except in the studios when I get to work with John Williams and some of these other great composers in the studios. But to have the opportunity to play with the London Symphony Orchestra at the Barbican Center and everything was so amazing. And I was in tears when it was over because it was so incredible. We nailed it. So it was one of my most happy experiences of all time.
I love that. A career milestone in a career filled with milestones. Hard to pick. Well, Harvey, this has been an absolute pleasure talking with you. This has been so.
I want to go. I could go on for about 4 more hours.
Let's do it. I mean, we can keep rolling for. We have this little thing we do. We have a segment we call call and response. It's just kind of quick hit questions at the end here. I throw one out, you throw one back. It's volleyball style, so we can get into that for sure. So, Harvey, one of the first things I always like to ask artists is, do you remember your first paying gig, first one where you said, "Wow, man, I'm making a living at this"?
I do. I just finished 8th grade playing in a big band, and one of the guys in the audience was a bass player who was a fireman in daylight, but he worked at night playing upright bass. And he called me to play a gig with him. And I didn't even have a drum set. So another parent in there who's a drummer said, anytime you need any drums, you can come borrow some of my stuff. I have some extra stuff. So this fireman, bass, took me over to the guy's house. We pick up a couple pieces of drums, and I go to a hotel to play a gig with him. And I think I made $50. And you realize that $50 was more than I made in a week working a hotel gig in the summertime. I would make $7 a day, and I ended up with $42 for the week. And here I worked a gig for one night for a couple hours, and I got $50.
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable.
You were hooked.
I loved it. And then people started calling me. I was working in surf clubs, working surf bands and bar mitzvahs. I have pictures of me. And I have pictures of me with drum sets that were from the 50s and that are really old, but that's all I could find to play. I didn't have a drum set until I was 14. Then I used to go to the music store, the drum store, and start just playing.
And just practicing the music.
I just practiced because I didn't have a drum set. I'd play at home on the pillows, but I'd go to the drum store and kind of play in the drum set. And the guy said to me, he said, "Harvey, why don't you take that set and pay me as you can when you can?"
Oh, nice.
And that's how I got my first set. His name was Irv Shapiro, Irv's Drum Shop.
Shout out to Irv Shapiro.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's long gone.
For the drum nerds, what kind of set was it then, and what are you playing on now?
It was a Gretsch set.
Oh, Gretsch. Okay.
Yeah, and I had a 20-year relationship with the Gretsch company as one of their prime endorsers before they sold the company. So it's really wild how they go,
Yeah.
And Gretsch was also very, very popular and an incredibly well-made drummer, one of probably the most recorded drums that you could buy.
Yeah, very cool. All right, Harvey, you have played with a lot of pop superstars. I mean, we're talking Beyonce, that caliber. I'm wondering if you're in your career as a studio musician playing for, some of the pop stars, who were some that you met that you kind of surprised you with their knowledge of jazz or music history or, made you kind of turn your head and go, whoa, you listen to that? You dig that?
Yeah. Seal was very aware.
I can see that.
I went to London to play with Seal.
I can see that.
Definitely. A lot of those pop stars are really up on all kinds of music. Now I'm trying to think of. That's all I can recall at present. But a lot of stars really listen to a lot of different kinds of music and were aware of what I had been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Harvey, who's a drummer maybe that you listen to from your childhood you feel is underrated, people should definitely listen to more?
well, I don't know if they're underrated, but I guess a guy I listened to early was a guy named Art Taylor. People don't really know, but he was a jazz drummer. He was on a lot of the early records. And the reason I loved him is because he played in the pocket and he played just the right amount. He didn't play too much.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to think that guys like Elvin and all played too much stuff. They were distracting, but I learned to love it as it went along, you know. And as I understood it, but in the beginning, I was more into this more structured kind of deal.
Yeah.
But I loved early. I loved Roy Haynes. You know,
still
Art
doing his
Taylor,
thing. Yeah.
Art Taylor, Roy Haynes is still around, still playing.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and then Tony Williams, of course, was a major influence with Miles. I wanted to replace him with Miles. Oh, when he left, but there's so many now. I mean, you know, and then Jimmy Cobb would just pass his time field, and then there was a drummer named Randy Gillespie who was a mentor to me. He came to town with Gene Lovegood, an organ player, and Billy Hart. Those were all guys that were just mentors to me, and they were great people as well.
Beautiful.
But this guy named Randy Gillespie took me under his wing a lot. You know, he was like a father because I didn't have a father. So he was really, I got to hang out with him. He didn't have any bad habits or anything. And to today, he teaches at Michigan State, and we still talk. We talk all the time.
And what was the best piece of advice he gave you that you find yourself passing on to young drummers all the time?
Well, I'm not sure that he gave me that, except that he showed me the cymbal ride.
Okay.
And just the way he was, impressed me enough to know that I wanted to be an upstanding, straight-ahead guy, and I wanted to be, I wanted to be able to relate to young people coming up and try and don't be standoffish. You know, I'll talk to everybody, and I'll try to, you know, communicating with people, and that's what I got from Randy. You know,
that's important, and a lesson, you know, more important than music. Sometimes you look at a guy like Clifford Brown, you know, clean living. Did not let a curse word slip his lips, and influenced so many trumpet players and jazz musicians in so many ways, you know, outside of music, just showing that, you know, you don't have to, you know, get into the booze or the drugs, because this was the 50s and Clifford Brown came along and was clean as a whistle. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm happy to hear that.
Oh yeah, Clifford Brown. And I mean, that talk about another tragic loss. I mean, he died, I think, when he was 26, 27 years old. And, you know, a guy who was only recording for 4, 5, 6 years, but, you know, made just an outsized impact on jazz.
Absolutely. Incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny to hear you say that, because as I played in the studios and started in 1970, I felt like I had to really excel for the guys that were going to come behind me, and I felt like I had to be on time. I had to be flawless, you know, because there weren't that many black guys in the studios at the time, and oftentimes be a 60-piece orchestra, and I'd be the only one, you know. So I felt like I had to really make them say, "Oh, this is great. We have to have more of them, more of them." Yeah. So I felt that, and I was happy to do that, and I think I did that.
Now we know you've played in the Academy Awards pit band. Have you been? You've done movies, TV show, that kind of stuff?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of TV shows, and I used to do the Cher show. I used to do the Bill Cosby show. I did, you know, Sonny Cher. I did, what else? Live. I did a show, country western show. Lee Ritenour and I were in a country western band, and we showed on stage. And there was a stage that came out. I don't remember the name of the show anymore, but I did that. Movies. I must have been 200 or 300 movies, at least 200 movies. I just did the new Star Wars 8. I just did that with John Williams.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Play it. Very cool. Now, do you have a favorite, I guess, do you have a favorite jazz movie or music movie, you know, something that you find yourself returning to? For me, it's Blues Brothers. No, you're a studio guy.
Well, I don't know. I got to play in The Color Purple.
Okay,
I got to play on Purple Rain. I got to play on Purple Rain. I got to play on
very nice.
White Stacks. I mean, so many daggone movies.
Yeah.
If you look at my discography, but I'm really proud of all that stuff. And, you know, I never thought about it at the time.
One that you like to watch, though?
I like to watch movies.
Yeah.
From time to time.
Okay.
From time to time. You know, I mean, we go to the movies. That's one of the forms of entertainment. We do go to the movies.
Okay. So. Beautiful. Right on. Well, Harvey, like I said, this has been great, man. It is a pleasure. We're going to have you back on, because you have stories galore, and it is so great to hear them. But I know you're a busy guy. I know you got music to record, and we appreciate you taking out the time to chat with us. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to doing it again. And I'll make sure I contact you when my new record is finished.
Please do. Please do. We will help spread the word for sure. Our fans are really going to be looking forward to that. Harvey Mason, thank you so much for talking to me. I'll see you backstage. I'm going to sign off with everybody at home here.
Okay. Everybody look for me on Instagram.
Oh, what's the Instagram account, Harvey?
Harvey Mason. That's a HMSR. Harvey Mason.
All right. Very cool. We'll see you on Instagram.
Thanks,
so long, Harvey.
Bye-bye, man. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow. Thank you so much to Harvey Mason, a drum legend. As I mentioned, he's played with everybody. If it's a record and you like it, there's a good chance Harvey Mason is playing drums on it. Wanted to just let you know about some forthcoming programming. Tomorrow, we're going to be chatting with Steve Wilson. And Friday, we're going to be going live with Chick Corea at 5 p.m. So mark your calendars for that. If you've been liking these videos, if you've been liking these conversations, please like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, help us spread the word. In the meantime, I am Brian Zimmerman. This has been the Jazziz Last Call. Thanks a lot for joining me. So long.